Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining the RKL Sage Construction Management Coffee Break demo. Hope you have your cup of joe handy and are looking forward to the presentation. One logistical note before we get started: if you have any questions throughout the presentation, just put it in the Q&A and we'll go ahead and answer it at the end of the presentation. My name is Mark Severance. I work as the Director of Construction Sales here at RKL eSolutions. And with me is my colleague, Ryan Lipka. He's our CRE pre-sales consultant. And after I do some brief introductory slides, he's going to walk us through a tour of the product. So we're here to talk about Sage Construction Management and why is this important? Now, we typically talk with a lot of construction companies, general contractors included, that have construction management challenges that typically fall into three particular buckets. The one is they're trying to manage their projects with too much paper, email, Excel spreadsheets, sticky notes, carrier pigeons, you name it. The creativity knows no bounds, but it is inefficient, manual, and hard to track. Number two, there's too little collaboration. That would be true of field personnel with back office personnel, as well as external folks that form the broader field team, and ultimately not having the ability to have the visibility and the collaboration that they need. And then number three, as they look to be able to solve some things, there are some great project management solutions out there in the market, but they're not always right-sized for small to mid-sized contractors. So in that mix of challenges, we're really excited to be able to talk more about Sage Construction Management. Sage Construction Management is a modern cloud platform, cloud-based, so you have access wherever, whenever, on the device of your choice. It was built for collaboration and mobility and works really, really well with the Sage ERP tools. That would be Sage Intacct, Sage 100 Contractor, Sage 300 CRE, as well as other ERPs as well. Now, Ryan's going to walk us through three sort of pillars of the application. The first is in pre-construction, second is in project management, and the third is in project and financial insight. It'll be a little bit of a whirlwind, so I'll just say, enjoy the presentation, and hopefully it'll plant some seeds for you to want to learn more. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan, and he's going to walk us through the product.
All right, thanks, Mark. So, like Mark mentioned, we're going to go through a demo of Sage Construction Management here today, and he kind of broke it into three parts there with leads, project management, and then the financial insights. And so kind of another part of that is going to be our contact management, which is going to work across all of these, all those three portions. And so we will touch on that first, but this is kind of the landing page to Sage Construction Management. This is going to show us when we log in any item requiring our attention in the next 7 days, as it shows on the screen here. And so this can be any sort of an item, whether it's a to-do, a notification that submittal packages or invoice payments are becoming due, that sort of thing. And these are direct links that will drill us down directly to the item that needs our attention. The navigation menu on the left, this is really where we're going to navigate between the different modules as we work with inside of SCM here. And so we're going to start in the contact management area. And so the contact management, this is going to contain basically any contact or company in relation to our leads or our projects. So this might be our customers or subcontractors, suppliers, architects and engineers, the owners themselves, our internal employees as well. So if we actually drill down into our list of companies first, we can see this is sorted in alphabetical order, but we can also view this by classifications, and these classifications are items that we can assign, and so that we can sort and view our companies and contacts in the way that we want to see them. So just as we view the list here, we can see, first off, we have some architects. As we scroll on the list, we can see our different owners within the system. And as we keep going further, we can see how it's broken apart by the different subcontractor trades. We can also just utilize the search bar up here as well to find a specific subcontractor that we're looking for. And if we drill down on one of these subcontractors, we can see this. This is going to hold all of that information pertaining to that company or contact, or if we call them subs and vendors. So first, we can get notifications such as expired insurance. As we scroll down, we can see that we can add contacts, and we can also track those items like our licenses and insurances. And so if we add things such as expiration dates, the system can notify us and help us manage and make sure that we're staying on top of our insurance requirements. As we continue to scroll down, we can have those linked files. So there again, in relation to that, we have our certificate of insurance and our licensing information. And that can all be attached right here inside the of SEM. Another thing to make note of is this can be, if we're utilizing this with an accounting system, for example, Sage Intacct, this is going to be kind of a two-way sync between Sage Construction Management and your accounting software, where the vendors inside of one or the other can be exported and imported back and forth and kind of synced and managed in both of the systems. If we jump into the leads part, leads is this is where we can handle those I guess those bid opportunities. So it's going to provide us a lot of information. We can store drawings and specs within here. We can share these drawings and specs with our subs and vendors through the invitation to bid feature. So this is kind of our lead landing page here. We can see that we have some active and inactive leads. Our inactive ones are going to be projects that maybe we decided not to bid on, or we did bid on, but we were not awarded those projects, and so those are inactive ones. But we also have this lead calendar over here, and this is going to give us that notification of our leads that have an upcoming bid date. So for example, we can see we have one coming up on the 30th that is due. If we drill down into our list of leads, these are all of our active leads. We can sort and filter this data in this view by inactive or active or any of these other filters that we see here, as well as we can customize the columns that we see to kind of provide us with information that's important to us. There's a little bit of customizability that we can handle here. So for instance, if we wanted to see the salesperson rather than bid contact, we can simply select those columns to show on this screen. If we drill down into a lead, first off, we can kind of see some of that important information, so that the lead address as well as any contacts associated with it. But then we have this lead stage area here. And so this is going to be kind of an audit trail. We're going to continue to add leads as we move through the process. So for instance, this one started out as a lead qualification. From there, it moved into the bidding stage. Once we're complete with the bidding or the estimating, we might move this into bid completed until we get notified of whether we were awarded or not awarded the project. Here we have our lead menu. This is going to be our tools or our action items that we can utilize in relation to a lead. So for instance, we have drawings and specs, like was mentioned, invitation to bid, as well as that correspondence, submittals, and RFIs in the instance that we need to utilize these on our leads. If we touch on drawings here, we kind of have a couple of different views. So first, we can just see kind of a grid view of our drawings. We can see this in a card style. This gives us a bird's eye view. And if we were to actually drill down on one of these drawings, it gives us the full version of it with that ability to do annotations. We can add text, we can do markups, highlights, red lines, any of that sort of information that we're used to doing on our drawings. If we go back to the lead home, we can take a look at the invitation to bid portion. This invitation to bid, we can add our different subcontractors or vendors that we would want to request a bid from on the project, or see if they have interest. We can link files, so any of those drawings or specs that we're able to upload. We can send out general messages in relation to this. So we can see here, this one was sent out that we have a bid due by 2 p.m. today, and that's so any sort of messages there. And then our vendor messages, communication back and forth in relation. And from here, we have that ability, like was mentioned, to send out this invitation. These subcontractors or vendors, they're going to get an email inside of that email is going to be a direct link with all of their bid options or their status options. And so they can choose whether they intend to bid, or if they're undecided, or they don't intend to bid. We also have some lead analytics here. So we have a lot of different dashboards. We can customize these. We can look at our active and inactive. We can select which ones. We can add date ranges if we want to. I have one of these pulled up here today. I have the last stage by salesperson pulled up. And so we can see all of the different salespeople. And according to each lead status, it shows us the number of bids in each status as well as a dollar value. And then we have a grand total as well. So this can kind of help us take a look at our backlog of estimates, maybe projects that we have out there in the estimating stage, and maybe that can help us get a better idea of upcoming work that we have. If we go back into the main SCM program here, we're going to now jump into the projects area. And so similar to leads, we're going to be able to see that the number of projects that we have, as well as a little bit of project checkup. And so the ideal is that all these numbers are zero. What the system is doing is it's notifying us that there are some things that need our attention here. So for example, we have a project that don't have a classification, one that hasn't been assigned a salesperson, that sort of thing. But if we drill down into our projects, we're going to get a kind of a card style view. And this is going to give us a brief snapshot even of the projects from this point. So we can see those contacts. We also have that ability to see items that are open or overdue, as well as a small financial insight, as well as we have a total invoice in relation to the prime contract. So just in this view, we can see some of that relevant information. When we actually drill down into the project, there again, similar to a lead, we can see the different contacts associated with it. This is going to be those open items that the system was notifying us even on the last screen. And then here we have our projects menu area. And so it's kind of organized into maybe different workflows of the project. And so first we have just general information, drawing specs, pre-construction. So there again, even if it is a project, we can still send out invitation to bids. I know there's some contractors that don't necessarily get bids until they actually have the project awarded. So we can utilize that invitation to bid in either a lead or a project. We have our contract admin, procurement, that's going to be purchase orders and subcontracts, that sort of thing. And then any one of these tools or action items, they can be added up here on this favorites bar. So maybe our more commonly used tools we can add here for quick access. If I drill down into our prime contracts, so these prime contracts, we can add as many of these as we need to for a project. Most projects you're typically going to have one, but in the case of some larger projects, maybe it's in a compartment complex, we can create a separate prime contract for each individual building or different phases or that sort of thing. We can see on my list here, this particular contract is a fixed lump sum. And so within inside of Sage SCM or Sage Construction Management, we have 4 different contract types that we can utilize. We can do the fixed lump sum. We have cost plus with a guaranteed maximum price or without guaranteed maximum price, as well as unit price billing or unit price contract. We drill down into the prime contract itself. There again, we can see kind of a financial snapshot right away, our prime contract amount versus invoiced amount versus cost amount. And this is really going to contain all of that information in relation to your prime contract. This is where we can also view the schedule of values and cost budgets as well. We go back to the project home, and this is where we can jump into that procurement area. So in procurement, we have purchase orders, subcontracts, and change orders related to POs or subcontracts as well. In relation to purchase orders and subcontracts, they're going to be both pretty similar, but we have a lot of action items here. So a lot of different ways that we can create purchase orders or subcontracts and bring them into the system. We can add them manually. We can add them from change orders. If we're going to build out an estimate within inside of SCM, we can bring purchase orders from estimates. So a lot of different options, including requests for proposals. We can turn those requests for proposals into purchase orders or subcontracts as well. Back to the project home, if we take a look at the correspondence overview, the correspondence, that's going to be those items such as RFIs and submittals, pretty common on projects. And so RFIs and submittals there again, they're going to work in a pretty similar fashion within a side Sage construction management. We kind of have some predefined workflows, if you will. So for instance, when it comes to a submittal, we can add all of the necessary contacts. We can add our general description of what we're looking for, as well as our items. And in most areas throughout SCM, including our purchase orders, subcontracts, RFIs, submittals, we have that ability to link different files. And so whether it is drawings and specs or photos or other records on that project, we can attach those all here. Now, as far as the actual workflow goes, like in the instance of a submittal, it's kind of built into SCM here. So the first step is we send that off to the originator. When that gets returned from the originator, maybe the person who's supplying the spec sheet, now we send it off to the respondents, otherwise known as our approvers. Once that submittal is approved, we can send that back to the originator. Maybe it's the building supply company. And now we basically notifying them that this submittal is approved and good to go. And so whether they're waiting to deliver the materials or order the materials until that approval, now they have that notification. One more thing to point out, I guess, even on that correspondence thing, if we drill down into the project directory, what the project directory is this where we can add any of those companies or contacts in relation to the project. We can tie them in here. And so if we touch a little bit on like our TeamLink portal here, what this TeamLink portal is basically going to be access for our third-party vendors or our outside vendors and subcontractors working on the project. So like mentioned, vendors, subcontractors, architects, owners, we can create this TeamLink portal for them. And then they can log into Sage Construction Management on their own and see all of the information that they need to see in regards, whether it is purchase orders or subcontracts. And so within this project directory here, even we have that ability to assign them different roles, which is going to control what information that these subs and vendors see on the project. QC and safety area, this is going to be items, checklist, punch list. Maybe we need to schedule inspections, as well as safety incidents, safety meetings, any of that sort of information that we want to track. I know safety meetings is a big one. And so the QC and safety area, that's really where we can control all of that information. And then we have the scheduling functionality as well. So within the scheduling, we can create general to-dos, project to-dos specific to each project. We can also create an actual Gantt chart schedule. If we take a deeper dive into the schedule here, we can see this is broken down into the different tasks. We can create them and link them with predecessors. So if we update one item within the schedule, it's going to update all the corresponding ones. We can assign the different tasks to specific resources. So whether it's an internal employee or a subcontractor, if we assign it to a subcontractor and even internal employees, we can email these assignments. And then so as we update our schedule, as items get moved around, we can continually email them updates. There is one more thing to point out as far as even in the contact management area. So as you're going through a project, your subcontractors are providing their invoices, and we're creating subcontracts and purchase orders for these vendors. As we drill down, we have what we call our vendor hub, and what our vendor hub is going to be is it's going to be like that financial snapshot of this vendor. And so when we go into the vendor hub, it will notify us of our insurance and licensing information, but it also is going to show us our dollar value and subcontracts and invoices that we have with these subs. as well as the ability to drill down into these individual transactions that make up the dollar value. So back in the project, if we touch on reporting and analytics, so we can go to project financial analytics, and within here, there's a lot of different options. We can look at each specific project individually. We can join multiple projects together. If we navigate through these different tabs, we can see different dashboards that we have access to, as well as different analytical reports. And I do have a report pulled up here. This is a detailed summary report of this specific project. So this is going to contain all of that information, I guess, that we need to let us know where we're at on the project. So prime contract amounts, invoiced amounts, as well as this grid here is going to show us our committed costs, cost to date, profit analysis, a lot of useful information. And like we were touching on, all of these different reports and dashboards throughout are available to us. And that kind of concludes the demo. I'm going to let Mark take over from here.
Thanks very much, Ryan. You covered a lot of ground in a relatively short amount of time. So thanks for that. I think that was a great 10,000-foot overview, and would just encourage anyone who's here on the call who thought, oh, that was interesting, I'd like to know more. We definitely want to be a resource for you as a follow-up. Now, let's do a couple things here in wrapping up. I'm sharing my screen here. This is an overview, a summary of what Ryan had touched on in the last 15, 20 minutes or so. As you can imagine, there's lots more there, and we're happy to be able to speak to any one of these items or all of them in more detail. So if you're listening on the call and would like to know more, here are some next steps. We really like to think about Sage construction management or construction management in general, not in isolation, rather as a part of your overall attempts and efforts to be able to automate the various portions of your business. And so rather than just saying, let's talk about one thing, we like to be able to use that as a catalyst to be able to talk about a number of things, making sure that we're not missing out on any other opportunities to automate. So from there, we can collaborate and develop a list of automation priorities. We'd like to tackle your top priority and then keep going from there. So if there's any way that we can help, if there's any way that we can be a resource to you, please don't hesitate to let us know. Now with that, I'm going to see if there's any questions in the chat. And then if there are, I can ask Ryan. Doesn't look like we have any questions now, but I'll give the audience a chance to be able to type it in if that is something that would be helpful. While we wait just a few seconds, would again just say the Sage Construction Management module can work as a standalone, but works best in an integrated fashion. And while we didn't have an opportunity to unpack all the details of what information goes back and forth between Sage Construction Management and Sage ERP, that's another opportunity or another topic that we'd love to connect with you on at a later date. Well, it doesn't look like we have any questions, Ryan. So again, just wanted to say thank you to you for the great presentation. And our email addresses are here on the screen below. If you have any questions, want any follow-up, if we can be a resource to you and your organization in any way, please don't hesitate to let us know. And have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.